Welcome back to TalkTickers, your shortcut to understanding earnings calls. And today we're going to be diving deep into Monster Beverage's Q4 2024 performance. It's a pretty interesting story, record sales, we got some legal issues, even hurricanes are in the mix. So ready to crack this one open? Let's do it. All right, so let's start with the headline figures here. Monster, they pulled in record net sales of $1.81 billion. That's a pretty solid 4.7% increase year over year.
Yes, sir.
Pretty impressive. But on the other hand, their operating income actually took a bit of a dip, down 12.2% to $381.2 million. So what's going on there?
Well, that dip in operating income, that's definitely something we need to dig into a little bit. And the primary drivers there really are a combination of some one-time charges. Primarily, we're looking at impairment charges and then some legal expenses.
Okay.
Now, it's important to note that these are typically isolated incidents, right? And they don't really reflect any sort of underlying operational problems. In fact, if you actually adjust for these one-time items, their adjusted operating income actually tells a very different story. And it's a much more positive one with a 7.9% increase.
Oh, wow. Okay. So like the numbers might look a little scary at first glance, but like once you factor in those one-time hits, like, oh, okay, that makes a little more sense. So let's maybe shift gears a little bit and talk about the energy drink market overall. How's the category performing in general?
Well, the energy drink market is actually experiencing a pretty significant resurgence, both in the U.S. and globally.
Interesting.
And this renewed growth is really being driven by a few things. You've got increased household penetration and then higher per capita consumption. So basically, more people are drinking more energy drinks, which is great news for everybody.
Yeah, that's got to be good news for Monster, right? Like a rising tide lifts all boats, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
But of course, more people in the market also means that, more competition.
Exactly. The competition is definitely heating up. If you look at some Nielsen data, it shows Monster's share of the U.S. convenience and gas channel is holding steady. However, Red Bull, they've actually seen a pretty significant share increase.
Okay.
So now this kind of begs the question, how is Monster going to respond to this increasing pressure from Red Bull?
That is a really good question. I mean, well, one of their responses, at least, was the acquisition of Alani Nu. It's a competitor, and they kind of focus more on female consumers. So could this be the key for them to sort of tap into a new demographic and maybe gain a little bit of an edge?
It's certainly a strategic move. The energy drink market has historically been very male-dominated. And by acquiring Alani Nu, Monster is making a very clear play here to try to capture a larger share of that female market. So it's a pretty bold move that could potentially, really kind of shake up the entire industry.
Yeah, that'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. So we've got this very exciting market backdrop, but Monster also had to deal with some pretty serious challenges in Q4, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about hurricanes and legal battles here.
Oh, absolutely. Hurricanes Helene and Milton, they really kind of wreaked some havoc. They caused some pretty significant production disruptions, particularly in their alcohol brands segment.
Right.
They even had to temporarily close down their brewery in North Carolina because of flooding. And that's a pretty big setback, especially considering their ambitions for expanding into the alcoholic beverage market.
Oh, wow. Yeah, talk about bad timing. And then, of course, you've got the legal battle with the descendants of Hanson, who are claiming that Monster infringed on their intellectual property. It's like, what a curveball to throw into the mix.
Oh, yeah. It's a very unexpected twist, for sure. And these legal expenses, those certainly added to their financial burdens in Q4. It's just kind of a reminder that even in a seemingly straightforward industry like beverages, these legal challenges can really pop up and kind of disrupt everything.
Right. Okay. So we've got hurricanes, we've got lawsuits, and we've got this resurgent competitor in Red Bull. How's Monster responding to all of this, aside from the Alani Nu acquisition?
Well, they're also really pushing for global expansion, particularly in the Asia Pacific and EME regions where they see a lot of growth potential. And they're also kind of diversifying their distribution approach. They're expanding into these non-Nielsen measured channels. So they're basically, thinking outside that traditional box to try to reach more consumers.
Yeah, sounds like they're not just sitting back and letting the competition pass them by. And of course, there's a constant innovation that we've come to expect from Monster. Tell me they launched some crazy new flavors.
Oh, absolutely. The Monster Energy and Reign brands, they both saw a whole bunch of new product launches. We're talking about like Monster Ultra Vice Guava and Bang Energy Any Means Orange. They're really experimenting with a wide range of flavors and partnerships to try to appeal to an even wider audience.
It's like they're trying to make a flavor for every single person on planet. But amidst all this, expansion and innovation, their venture into alcoholic beverages, it seems like that's facing a little bit of headwinds, right?
Yeah, it is. Monster Brewing is still very much in its early stages, and they're definitely navigating a very competitive market. And the hurricane-related setbacks, that certainly didn't help. However, Monster still seems pretty optimistic about the long-term potential of this segment, and they're really focusing on innovation and international expansion to drive future growth.
It's a bold move to like conquer both the energy drink market and the alcoholic beverage market. So, I mean, they're expanding globally. They're launching all these new products. They're dipping their toes into this alcoholic beverage market. But what about their core financials? I mean, how healthy are they to support all of this activity?
Well, let's break down those Q4 numbers a little bit further. So despite the fact that they had lower input costs, which actually contributed to their gross margin expansion, this was actually partially offset by their geographical sales mix.
Good.
And this really highlights that, even when you have some factors working in your favor, that overall financial picture, it can still be pretty complex.
Sure. Yeah, we can't forget about, their pricing strategy. They implemented a 5% price increase in the U.S. back in November 2024. And, there are some hints that more price hikes might be on the horizon. So are they trying to get ahead of inflation, or are they just feeling, really confident and able to flex their pricing power?
Well, it's probably a combination of both, honestly. They're very closely monitoring, opportunities for further price increases, both domestically and internationally. And it's a delicate balancing act. They need to be able to protect their margins while also remaining competitive in what is a very price-sensitive market.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it really does feel like they're juggling a lot right now.
Yeah.
But hey, that's kind of the nature of the beast in a fast-paced industry like this, right?
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, our listeners always love to hear some wild speculative trade ideas. So are you ready to, throw out some hypothetical plays based on what we've learned?
Always happy to. But before we do that, got to throw out the standard disclaimer.
Right.
This is purely for entertainment and educational purposes.
Right.
We're just brainstorming here, not giving actual investment recommendations. So any investment decision should be made based on, your own research and your own risk tolerance, obviously.
Of course. We're all responsible adults here. So, let's have some fun with it.
All right. Let's kick things off with a strategy called a long strangle on Monster Beverage. Ticker symbol MNST, of course.
Okay, a long strangle. That sounds pretty intense. So what's the thinking behind that one?
Well, with the energy drink market heating up like it is and Monster launching all these new products, there's a pretty good chance that their stock price is going to see some pretty big movement. The thing is, we don't necessarily know which direction it's going to go. Could be up, could be down.
So it's like with a long strangle, you're basically saying, I think this stock's going to make a big move, but I'm not sure which way.
Exactly. And that's really the beauty of this strategy. You're basically betting on volatility regardless of which direction it goes. Now, of course, there's always risk involved, right? If the stock price doesn't move enough, well, then you could end up losing money.
Right. It's kind of like a high stakes gamble, but with the potential for a huge payoff if you're right. Okay, so what's our next speculative play here?
Let's get a little more creative. How about a pair trade? This one involves shorting Red Bull, which, as we know, is a privately held company. So we'd actually execute this using a pair trade with Monster Beverage.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but I'm a little lost. How do you short a company that's not publicly traded?
Well, that's where the pair part of it comes in. We would simultaneously take a long position in Monster and then a short position in another publicly traded company that we think is closely correlated with Red Bull's performance.
Okay.
The idea here is that if Monster outperforms this proxy for Red Bull, then we profit from the spread between the two.
Oh, okay, I see. So we're basically betting that Monster will outperform Red Bull, but we're doing it indirectly by using this other publicly traded company as a stand-in.
Precisely. It's definitely a more complex strategy, but it allows you to play the relative performance between two competitors, even if one of them isn't actually, directly tradable.
I like it. It's like a financial puzzle.
Yeah.
Figuring out how to make these like indirect bets. But again, I mean, these are just hypothetical scenarios here, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the market is constantly evolving, and there are just countless factors that could influence a stock's price. So these speculative ideas are really just meant to kind of spark your imagination and encourage you to think outside the box a little bit.
Yeah. And that's what we love to do here at TalkTickers. We want our listeners to be informed, engaged, and, maybe even a little bit entertained by the world of finance.
And who knows, maybe one of these wild ideas will inspire you to uncover your own investment strategy, one that's, perfectly tailored to your own risk appetite and your financial goals.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today, from those record sales to hurricanes to even like some pretty out there trade ideas.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster for sure. Monster's facing some challenges, no doubt, but they're also making some pretty bold moves to try to set themselves up for future growth.
Absolutely. And, I think that's what makes this company so fascinating to follow. They're not afraid to take risks and push the boundaries in the beverage industry.
Yeah, I agree. They're always innovating, expanding to new markets, and even kind of venturing into some pretty uncharted territory with those alcoholic beverages.
Right. It's that entrepreneurial spirit that's really made them a leader in the energy drink market.
But with all this increased competition and, those legal issues and the impact from those hurricanes, I mean, can they really maintain that momentum going forward?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? I mean, the energy drink market's more dynamic than ever, and the competition is it's fierce out there.
Yeah, it is. So do you think they can reclaim that market share from some of those rivals, especially with kind of revitalized Red Bull? And what about their venture into alcoholic beverages? Is that, is that a risky gamble, or is that a stroke of genius?
Well, I guess only time will tell.
Yeah.
But what I find really interesting is that Monster has always been able to adapt and evolve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they've weathered some storms before, both literally and figuratively, right? And they've shown this, pretty remarkable ability to innovate and respond to changing consumer preferences.
Right. And let's not forget about their strong brand recognition, and that loyal customer base. Those are some pretty valuable assets to have in a competitive market like this.
Oh, for sure. So, while there are definitely some challenges on the horizon, I don't think we should count Monster out just yet. I mean, they have the experience, the resources, and definitely the drive to stay ahead of the game.
Yeah, I totally agree. It'll be very interesting to see how their story unfolds in these coming quarters.
Well said. And that's a wrap on our deep dive into Monster Beverage's Q4 2024 earnings call. We hope you found this analysis, insightful. And as always, we encourage you to do your own research before making any investment decisions.
Always remember, knowledge is power. So stay informed, stay curious, and keep those trade ideas flowing.
Until next time, happy investing.